Bill, and I'm going to put it on speaker view. So there you are.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, welcome all of you. And the first thing that we want to say genuinely is thank you for stepping up into leadership. You're going to hear this over and over again as you go through your president-elect training, but the president of the Rotary Club is the most important role in Rotary. And the reason for that is because everything happens at the club. Everything. That's where the magic happens, the work is done, and the friendship and fellowship comes together of why we stay long term into Rotary. So I just want to congratulate you all. I To be district governor, you do have to be club president. So I have served as club president, and then as Siska stated, served as district governor in 2020. My role now is that I work with all of the clubs and districts in primarily Zone 26, but also support Zone 27 in the area of the Rotary Foundation. So Jeff and I are super close and we work together all the time. I joke with Jeff that the difference is he gets paid to do the great work. And we are all volunteers. So I am like you. And I will tell you, though, that in Rotary, we probably could not be more lucky to have Jeff as our resource. So, one of the first thing we want to say is we are here for you. You hear that a lot. And what I find is that people will say, well, I don't really want to bother them. They've got a lot going on. They have to help a lot of other clubs. But that's what our roles currently are, is to help all of you and to be a resource to all of you. So please, if there's any takeaway you have tonight, it's that we are here and that is a genuine promise. So from that, what I will share is we have about 22 people I see. That'll ebb and flow, I'm sure, this evening, but it's a smaller group. So please feel free to use the chat on the bottom of your Zoom, where we've been doing it now for a while. So down there, you can use your reactions. You can absolutely raise your hand, but typically we like to leave questions until we are more so through the program, just to make sure we cover all of the content. So if you have something immediate, please put it in chat. Jeff and I will both be watching that for each other and step in at any time. The other thing is tonight, we are going to kind of go back to the basics. Now, the Rotary Foundation is a machine and an engine and a rocket. And so there are so many different parts when we think of the foundation. And what we're going to try our best to do is to simplify that for you so that when you're working with your club leadership teams and your club members, that it's something that is easy for you to share in what exactly does our foundation do. And that's where I would want to start is we say the Rotary Foundation, but it's actually our Rotary Foundation. The Rotary Foundation is something that we get to determine where we want our dollars to go when we give them. And we're going to go through tonight how we make that possible. But it's something that the minute that your members understand that they have ownership of this foundation, they have ownership over how the funds are used, something totally shifts and it's magical. It's very different than when you write a check and you send it off and, you're like, okay, it's going to go to the good stuff. But this one, you actually get to pick where you want it to go. I will share many clubs that are very engaged. We also have many clubs that don't utilize the benefit of it. They give and they're not necessarily doing the projects. So we'll talk about that as well on how to get engaged and how to get your club more active. So I'm going to pause for a second. Jeff, I would love you to introduce yourself a little bit more than previous, and we'll get started after that.
Well, thanks, Elizabeth. Hey, everybody. Jeff Cochran here. I am a Senior Annual Giving Officer with the Rotary Foundation. It's a very long title that means a lot of different things. For all intents and purposes here tonight, it means I'm going to be one of your trainers. And specifically what I'll be talking about with you here this evening is I'm going to kind of take a little bit of I wouldn't say a deep dive, but a little bit of a deeper dive probably than what you're used to into reports, some of the reports you're going to have access to in your presidential year with your club. And what these really are tools to help you elevate the Rotary Foundation experience, the fundraising experience that you're going to have in your club next year. And so I was kind of teasing Elizabeth earlier today. I told her that she gets to talk about the fun stuff, and I have to talk about all the nuts and bolts of the foundation. I get the boring side of it, but we're going to try to have a little fun when we talk about reports here too. So all that's to say is I'm going to be here in probably the second half of the call tonight. We'll get to talk a little bit more. So when it comes to the nuts and bolts of looking at the foundation, if there's any questions that you have, we'll, of course, like Elizabeth said, both be resources for you. But think about some of those questions and what might be most relevant to you as we go throughout this call this evening. So back to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. So I can see everybody on the screen. I can see your smiling faces. I can also see if you fall asleep, but I hope that doesn't happen tonight. How many of you feel that you have a good handle, a good foundation on the Rotary Foundation? If you just want to raise your hand, I can see you. Awesome. That's great. That's really great. Okay, so I might go quick through part of it, being that most of you understand that. How many of you have actively participated in a global grant? Okay, awesome. That's unusual and awesome. How many of you have how many of your clubs actively participate with a district grant? Okay. Now I'm gonna share a little secret. Not all districts handle district grants the same. So when you're talking at PELS training about what your club does and you're talking to someone else and they're like, we don't do that. That is because district grants, and we'll go through this in a second, those rules kind of happen at the district level where the global grants happen at the foundation level. And so your clubs are going to look at that a little differently. So it's nice that you're all participating in that. So let me bring up the infamous slide deck. Right. Okay. So the Rotary Foundation, you've heard this, helps Rotary members to advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace by improving health, providing quality education, improving the environment, and alleviating poverty. Now, that is a general statement, and we do much, much more than that. But this is a good kind of encompassing two sentences of what you could use when you're talking about the foundation. So, one thing that right out of the gate, I really think we should share is our foundation has one of the best records of performance in the United States. This is not something that is small potatoes. This is something that is held against the other big foundations you've heard of, the other big nonprofits you've heard of. So we are now on our 15th consecutive year earning the 4-star rating from Charity Navigator. What does that look like? Or what do they look at? They're looking at how the funds are spent. They're looking at what part of it is going to stewardship. So when we're doing projects, are we just throwing a Band-Aid on something, or are we actually creating sustainable outcomes, measured outcomes around the world? They're also looking at how much of the funds that we all give into our foundation, how much are going back into those projects. And that's what makes Rotary very different, is because a lot of the action happens through all of us. Rotary clubs all over the world. So because of that, our efficiency is ginormous. When I call Jeff, sometimes we picture Evanston, Chicago, we picture the Rotary Foundation, we picture this giant corporate building where Jeff is with 100 people. And no, that's not true. There's very few staff actually in Evanston because most of the money is going directly to support your projects. Jeff, how many people do you have on your collective team in Evanston?
Just our annual giving team alone, we have 6 staff in the United States. So it's a pretty sparse group, to be honest. Yeah.
So you're thinking a little nonprofit in your area, might have 4 people on fund development. They might have other people on programs, and you've got 6, here working for the United States. So I put that in perspective so that you know the efficiency of that money. And that's really important to me. I love spreadsheets and finance. And for me to be able to support a foundation, it has to be something that is sustainable and making that impact. So as we go on, we're going to talk about the annual fund. Now, you heard Siska refer to Jeff as the annual fund giving officer. Um, the thing about our foundation is that we have many, many, many different parts. When we think about it, we have the annual fund, which is money that we give. When you think about Paul Harris Fellow, Paul Harris Society, that's kind of the terms we use on how much we give. But the reality is, or how we give, the reality is that we have our annual fund, which is money that we're putting into motion within the next 5 years. That's the goal, whether that's in the form of district grants or global grants. Then we have our endowment, and that's money that we're going to be putting away for long term. So you think about something that's going to allow us and our foundation to live in perpetuity. And then you have your Polio Plus Fund, and that is specifically directed to the eradication of polio. For your clubs, and the reason I clarify this for a second is because sometimes clubs might give everything to Polio Plus, and then they're not sure why they didn't qualify for district grants. And the reason is because they didn't give it to the annual fund. And they go, well, gosh, I gave to the Rotary Foundation, that should count. And absolutely, but the annual fund works in a very specific way that I want to cover with you. So we have our areas of focus. We have 7 areas of focus that you guys probably have heard: environment, community, economic development. You can see them here: basic education and literacy, maternal child health, water, sanitation and hygiene, disease prevention and treatment, peace building and conflict resolution. Now, does that mean that if you are really passionate about pets and you're really passionate about veterans, that you don't fit in the areas of focus? That's not true. Because actually, we have a global grant that works with pets, works with animals on post-traumatic stress disorder for veterans in the area of peace and conflict. So when you're thinking about these areas of focus, what I want you to be open-minded and thinking is, your passion probably has a place. It's just a matter of how do we make that sustainable, and how do we make it something? What is that sustainable? You're going to hear that word over and over again. What that means is that when we're done creating that project and implementing, and we actually leave that community, that it's funding. And it's going to be funding in perpetuity after the Rotarians are done implementing it. So that's really the areas of focus, is that we want to hone in on these areas, but there's a lot of space and movement within those. So I brought up the annual fund, and you'll hear it sometimes as share. You'll hear there's lots of names, but ultimately it's that you're giving to the annual fund portion of the Rotary Foundation. And what happens is when you give that money, so let's say it's a Paul Harris Society member. So you're giving $1,000 a year, or every Rotarian every year, you're giving, over that $125 amount per year. That's going to go, and it's going to be invested for 3 years. And what happens is that growth over the 3 years is going to support the foundation operations. Now, part of that is Jeff and his team, but it's, as he said, it's very sparse. It's going to be to making it run. And I've heard a lot of comments in my time helping the foundation, and people will say, well, I think they should have a giant fund development committee, and I think we should have all the marketing, and we should have campaigns and all these things. And what I gently remind our Rotarians at the club and district level is, if you want those things, then you have more money going to operations, and you have less money going to projects and programs. So my role as a volunteer, as a regional Rotary Foundation coordinator, is I actually help create those campaigns for your districts, and more importantly, your clubs. So we can work together in saying, can you get me the marketing? Can you create this for me? What does Jeff have? Did they have videos? We're going to get all that out to you guys so you have the resources available. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that operation portion is very small. So 3 years later, it's going to be divided in 2 different buckets. One bucket is going to be the World Fund. The other bucket is going to be district designated funds. Now in Rotary, you'll learn this definitely at PELS. I just did it. We love our acronyms. So what is PELS? President-elect Learning Seminar, right? What is, you'll hear with the Rotary Foundation, they'll say TRF, the World Fund, TWF, DDF. It's a lot of F's. And what DDF is district designated funds. So what that means is that's the money that came back 3 years later that you gave. And now that can be used by your district to go into district grants, which are smaller grants that can be used internationally, but more so those are used within your community. And it also can be used for global grants. And typically, not always, that division's about 50-50. The global grant portion, the other 50% of that bucket, that's going to go to things like our match. So when you give to global grants and you hear about that match, it's actually your money matching. It's coming back to those projects. And then in addition, it's going to go to our peace centers. Sometimes it does go to polio eradication. It's going to go to those other areas that we support in Rotary. Jeff, anything you want to add there?
I think you pretty much nailed it. When it comes to talking about how Share operates and functions with grants, you mentioned something along the lines of most people don't even dip their toe into what really is available to them with the Rotary Foundation. And in that same vein, I think back to what my colleague, one of the regional grants officers, says. Her name was Elizabeth Davis. She always says, one of the biggest buy-ins when you give to the Rotary Foundation is the ability to participate in our network of worldwide, global, and district grants, right? And this really is the payoff. So as you as a donor, thinking about yourself as a donor to a nonprofit, when you give to the foundation, really what you're doing is paying into a system that allows you exponentially to return that out into the world into some incredible projects. And so that's kind of what you're speaking to right now, Elizabeth.
Yeah, that's where we're headed. So that's a perfect segue, and we didn't even practice that. So you guys see this boat that's sinking in front of you, and I want to pause for a moment because what I see, my observations is sometimes I'll give club presentations and I'll hear from them, and they're like, "Oh, Rotary does these great projects. They do it. Those clubs do it. I see that there was a great project in Taipei. But that's them." When you give 1 cent to the Rotary Foundation, as Jeff just mentioned, you are part of every single project that takes place in Rotary and every single part and corner of this world. Now, how is that possible? Because when you gave your money to the annual fund, as you remembered, that gets divided and half of it goes to the World Fund. That World Fund portion matches all those projects around the world. So it's really hard to contemplate. But what I really would encourage you as presidents and leading your clubs is to, when you're doing your foundation moments or you're doing the why is the foundation important, really emphasize that these are their projects. These are your projects. So we feel detached if we're not doing the hands-on service, but the actuality is exactly what Jeff mentioned. You're activating, when you give to the foundation, you're activating the ability to help all over without actually being the one doing all the hands-on service. And that's what's powerful. So why am I showing you a boat that's sinking? Well, one project that you may not have known that took place that you all gave to, because this took place not only last year, but it took place within our districts. Our zone was the international partner for this project. It's in Sonora, Mexico, outside of San Carlos, and it is a Mexican Navy ship. And what they did is we partnered with a Rotary Club in central Mexico. They wound up working with the Mexican Navy and government. They had the ship sunk, and now it's turning into an artificial reef. And actually, this year will be the first year you can go and scuba dive, and the coral has been growing, and it's an environment project. Now, why do I share that with you? Because that's the beauty of the foundation. When you're sleeping or you're going to work or you're with your grandkids, you don't realize that you're completely revitalizing our oceans through global grants that you were a part of through your gifts. This is one of 1,000 projects done just within our two zones and our districts. And so one thing my goal is to work with your district foundation chairs and make sure the stories of these projects are getting out. They're equally as important as the projects happening on the other side of the world, but I want you to be able to know what's happening in our own backyard. So what are some other global grants that are happening? Well, many of you know, I think some of you are actually experienced it, and I'm sending you my love, the California wildfires. So we had tremendous support from the Rotary Foundation in being able to immediately meet the needs through the disaster relief grants. But we also have some global grants that are now being created to be able to help those communities heal and thrive. We have a global grant in Arizona that is focused on solar for domestic violence shelter so that they can have sustainable, ongoing operations. But it's done in a way that the women who are living there are also having economic development. They're working, and it's all connected in terms of helping them empower and thrive. So, the other thing I want to share about global grants is we kind of have this idea that they're always done outside the US. And I've even heard them called reverse global grants. But actually, it's just a global grant. And it's a global grant where we're the host country and we find an international partner. So I would challenge all of you as presidents to work with your clubs, find the need in our communities. We have massive need in the US. And yes, there's great needs elsewhere, but you hear a lot, I don't give to the foundation because it's all international. That's true. There's a majority of international, but it's not all international. And so please just note that when you're looking for your projects. So the next ones are district grants. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but again, these are your local projects. You can see here 2025 garden, for harvesting. You might see community gardens, YMCA meal packing 2025. A lot of this might be renovation for a classroom, lots of different types of projects. But the thing is that these are in your actual communities. So again, you gave that money to the Rotary Foundation. 3 years later, it comes back. And now it's going both, maybe international on those global grants, but also in your local communities on those district grants. And we just want you to feel empowered when you're talking about the foundation to know that it's hitting all the corners of our world. Jeff, anything you want to add there?
No, please continue.
Okay.
You're doing great.
Oh, okay. Well, just, he might have a little nugget that I don't know about. So, all right. So here's something that I also think is important. Another misconception that's one that I'd love to fix. We think it's got to be big dollars, $1 million gifts, $250,000 gifts, $10,000 gifts for major donor. And those are important. If you have that, that level of means, thank you for your generosity. But what's amazing is that the donors who gave $25 to $99 per year actually contributed more than $5.4 million to the foundation. And when you look at what that impact was on the overall, it's a significant amount that keeps our engine running. So no gift is too small. And this is important when you're meeting Rotarians where they are. We know things are getting more expensive out there in the world. We know that, there's a lot of need. But even if someone can really equate to it and say, what's something that I could give up once a month and be able to maybe transfer those funds into a way to give back $10 a month. That's $120 a year. That's actually a huge impact on what we're doing in the foundation. So please, please encourage your club members, even if they're young, they're spending some pretty good money on maybe like no longer Starbucks, that's kind of passe, but whatever the new one is. Or, you're thinking about different ways that they spend. $10 a month is a great place to start. And something Jeff and I have talked about is actually doing some campaigns for younger members on some challenges to get them understanding how to be philanthropic. So you can see lots of great impact happening there. Jeff, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to let you show them how to find what's meaningful to their clubs, and then we'll come back and talk about different ways to give.
That sounds great. Thanks, Elizabeth. And that last point that you made about how important it is that every dollar given to the foundation makes a difference. Not only is that one donor segment that you mentioned, $25 to $99 important, between that donor segment, the $100 basically donor segment and the $1,000 donor segment, those two year over year consistently make up just about 300,000 donors, individual people giving millions and millions of dollars to the foundation. And so as often as we talk about major gifts in this organization, you've heard it a million times, major gifts, major donors. It really is the $100 and the $1,000 donor segment that is the engine that drives this organization. We cannot do what we do without those donors. And so I mention this again and underscore it because it's such an important point. It doesn't have to be those 5- and 6-figure gifts that somebody gives. And I think so often we talk about those and it psychs out people who can't give at that level. And they think, well, why should I even bother to give? It's because those are the people that make the biggest difference. So please take that away from this call. One of the most important things I think you'll hear tonight is just that every dollar given to the foundation is so vitally important to what we do. So thanks for that wonderful segue, Elizabeth. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the practicalities of what it means for you as club president and what are some of the tools that you're going to have as a resource as you enter your year next year. In addition to some of the great people that you have available to you, like myself and Elizabeth, you have a suite of tools in my Rotary, and that's what we're going to go over here tonight. One of the things I want you to consider here during this call and maybe the next couple of days after, if you haven't thought about it yet, is what is going to be your priority when you become president of your club as it relates to the foundation? Do you want to underscore just that simple point that we talked about? Every dollar given to the foundation is important. It saves and changes lives. Is that message already pretty clear at your club and you want to focus on something else? Do you want to consider different recognitions in your club? Do you want your entire club to be a Paul Harris Fellow Club? Do you want to talk about Paul Harris Society during the year? Do you want to elevate giving in your club to the level of major donor and consider that a success in your year? Whatever it is, it doesn't honestly matter to me. I just want you to have a priority in your year. And so that's going to be your strategy, and that's how you're going to apply some of these reports that we're about to talk about. Now, before we get into that, a little bit more about me and
Hey,
like,
Jeff,
yeah, go ahead.
before you show your glamorous headshot, we can actually already see it because we're on presenter view.
Oh, nice. I'm going to see if I can switch that. Let's see here. How about that? Does that work? Is that better?
That is so nice.
All right. Now that the
now we get to know about you.
Been given out there, I'm going to switch to my headshot, which, you know, you might think, Jeff, that doesn't even look like you. We have some great photographers on staff that make all of us look amazing. So rest assured that's me. Don't even worry about it. If you can avert your eyes from that picture, that amazing picture, I want you to look down at the bottom left of the screen. That's my contact information. So as Elizabeth said, seriously, stop looking at the picture, everybody. Look at my phone number, look at my email address, right? That's the important thing right now. Reach out to me anytime. Like Elizabeth said, we're here and available to you as resources. So please reach out and use us. That's really what we're here for, okay? Stop looking at the picture. My goodness. I'm going to just move on now so you can force you to stop looking. So as I said, think about a priority, and this is some of the strategies that you have available to you in your presidential year. Paul Harris Fellow, major donor level movers, Paul Harris Society campaigns, education and awareness. Maybe you're starting at a very fundamental grassroots level when it comes to the foundation in your club. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And there's so many clubs that just don't have a general sense and understanding about why the foundation is important to them personally or the club or Rotary as a whole. That's a great place to be because it gives you a blank slate and a canvas to work with. And so you can start with an education and awareness campaign across recognition events throughout the district, Triple Crown reports, Libunts. We'll talk about all of that as we go along, but all of those are great places to be when it comes to a club strategy. And then, of course, like individual recognitions like Paul Harris Fellow and Paul Harris Society, there's also club recognitions. Maybe you'd like to make your effort during your year to be a 100% foundation giving club. Everybody in your club gives to the foundation. Maybe you want to reach for an E-Ray club, every Rotarian every year, 100% Paul Harris Fellow clubs, 100% Paul Harris Society. Whatever your priority is here, there's a goal and a banner for you too. So think about that again, one of your takeaways from the call tonight. So let's talk a little bit about reports and the nitty-gritty of what this is going to look like. As you know, or maybe you don't, maybe this is the first time you're hearing about it and it's a surprise to you. There's this place on Rotary's website called My Rotary. You can log in and there's so many different resources available to you there. One of the things you're going to have access to is reports. This is kind of in a general way what this looks like. As you navigate the website in the top right corner, you'll find your login. That'll take you to another screen where you have another link called Membership and Foundation Reports, appropriately named. You click on that link and it'll take you to the suite of reports that you're going to have access to. Most of it is data as it relates to your club. And you can pick and choose which one you want to look at, which one you want to play with, and some of those numbers. And so we're going to go through a few of those, the things that I've prioritized that I think are most important to you in your presidential year. So again, as you click on Foundation Reports, you'll see this screen here. And the reason why I highlight this is because you can click on that little star next to Club Giving and it'll be highlighted for you when you log into My Rotary. You won't have to go searching for it every time. It'll be right there for you. And then you can just click it right when you go to the landing page. Super easy. Oh, there's some animations I didn't even know about. There we go. All right. And so this is what it looks like when you star that and make it a priority for you. It'll appear on the right-hand side where that red box is, and you'll just be able to click View Reports right away once you log in. So when you click on that, View Reports, you'll have this suite of reports here for club reports. And these are a couple of ones that we're going to look at here: Club Recognition Summary, Club Fundraising Analysis, and eventually Club Foundation Banner Report as well. The reason why I'm highlighting these is because these are the reports really that are going to give you the best view in supporting your priorities as club president. And you can, of course, also work with your club foundation chair, if you have one, to elevate the foundation and club giving to the foundation in your presidential year. So when it comes to the club recognition summary, this is in a general way what it looks like. It's going to give you a list of everyone in your club. Don't worry, this is a fake made up club. These aren't real people. If you didn't know what that jumble of letters actually looks like there for names. But it'll give you a good breakdown of what everybody's recognition level, especially Paul Harris Fellow level, looks like in the club. It'll show you if they're signed up for Rotary Direct. As you know, Rotary Direct is our recurring giving platform. You can set a monthly, quarterly, or annual donation to the foundation, kind of set it and forget it, makes it super easy. This is where you can see which of your club members are already signed up for Rotary Direct. And if you want to make that the priority in your year, it makes for a great campaign as well. The very first line is always the Rotary Club's recognition levels. And by that, I mean how many foundation recognition points does the club have access to? Now, this is independent of individual members. And then, of course, what was the last gift that the club, under the club name, gave to the foundation? And then moving on, we can see that there's the column for all points, which is the Rotary Club and individuals. Now, the reason why a club can earn points, they earn them the same way as an individual does. The club can give a gift to the foundation, but then the club will earn points as well. And you can use those club points as a points campaign to elevate giving in the club as a points match campaign or to incentivize giving across the board at the club. It's a great way to do that. And we can talk a little bit more about that if you have questions. Hopefully we'll have time for a little Q&A here at the end of this. This column that just highlighted is the recognition amount. This is the individual level that the person is at already. So you can kind of get a sense of where they are in their Paul Harris Fellow recognition. So if you see people that are close, maybe you can prioritize that and go to some of your closest friends at the club and say, hey, you're close to the next Paul Harris Fellow level, or you're getting close to a major donor level. Have you considered giving to elevate that and reach the next level? If your club has been a 100% Paul Harris Fellow club, that'll be listed under the club name there at the very top. Let me go back in case you missed that. Follow the line there that just floated up. That's where you'll find that. If it's not listed there, your club has never been a Paul Harris Fellow club. It's a one-time recognition. So once a club achieves that, they can never get it again. They've already achieved it. But if your club hasn't, you don't see it listed there, it's another great strategy and kind of annual overall goal to work towards throughout the year. And then, of course, the last gift, the date and the fund that the individual gave to, you'll see listed there as well. All-time giving in the club is listed at the top right. It's always kind of fun to see how much weight your club carries in giving to the foundation. And then that next report that we had highlighted on that previous page, the club fundraising analysis, this is going to be a really great report for you as club president to get a snapshot of your club giving throughout the course of the year. So when you go into Rotary Club Central, you may know this already. This may be news to you, but you can set a goal, a fundraising goal for your club. Once you set that goal in Rotary Club Central, it'll auto-populate to this report and you'll see it there. So in 22-23, this club hadn't set a fundraising goal, at least not yet when this report was pulled. But virtually immediately after the goal is set, you'll see it populate here on this report. And then, of course, the next column is the actual dollars given to the annual fund. So you can see that in real time. And then total contributions across all funds on the far right-hand side. That includes annual fund giving, Polio Plus giving, and giving to any grants that have been made throughout the course of the year as well. Another great feature of this report, in the bottom right, it will show you a running total of individuals who have achieved these recognitions: E-Ray, which is every Rotarian every year, sustaining member, and Paul Harris Society eligible members. So each of those recognitions that have been achieved in the club are shown here. And again, it's another great way to show a running total of those individuals who have achieved those recognitions throughout the year. I think moving on, but it'll let me. There we go. And then just one more quick report that I want to show you is the Club Foundation Banner Report. So if you think back to when I started, I talked about an overall strategy throughout the year and some of the banners that I mentioned. That's kind of where you track this here. So this report will show you a running total of a few different statistics that'll be important in measuring what those recognitions look like. Here at the very top, you'll see a running total of, again, some pretty significant individual recognitions like sustaining member, Paul Harris Society, eligible Rotarians, percent of sustaining member, E-Ray, of course. And so these are all relate back to the banners that we talked about. So if that's a priority for you in your club presidential year and something you want to make an overall annual goal of yours in the club, you can track that here and see who still needs to give to make those recognitions. And then last but not least, a few other tools that you're going to have available to you as club president. Of course, there's a suite of learning modules that our learning and development team here internally on staff have created in the Learning Center. You can log into my Rotary and access the Learning Center at any time. There's some great learning opportunities there, not just related to the foundation, but across the board, and virtually every Rotary topic that you've ever cared to worry or wonder about. There's something there for you that gives information about those. So it's a great place to learn more about the organization as a whole and ways that you as club president can support your club. Rotary Direct, we talked a little bit about. It's our recurring giving platform. It's a great place to go and give, whether it's a monthly, quarterly, or annual contribution. We just spent most of our time talking about club giving reports. You know, you're experts in that by now. You have no questions, I'm sure. Next, of course, is the Service Project Center, which is a great place to learn more about some of the outcomes of giving and what some of those amazing grant projects have looked like when they've been actualized that Elizabeth told us about. Whether it's a global grant or a district grant, you can find some of those amazing projects there to talk up to your club potentially. Your club and district foundation team are great resources to you as well. You have some great leadership throughout your clubs and in the district. So please do utilize those as well. And then just a kind of another takeaway, a weekly foundation minute. It's a great way to raise awareness in your club, even if it's just a quick 5-minute mention of something related to the Rotary Foundation. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people who are everyday club going Rotarians and they think to themselves, well, I've never really even heard of the foundation, or I've heard of it, but it doesn't really mean much to me. This is a great place to make that impact on a weekly basis at your club meeting, just to mention it and get it in people's ears so that they learn a little bit something about the foundation every week when they're at your club meeting. So that said, that really does it for me. We can either, I'll throw it back to Elizabeth. We can either open up for questions, or if you have a little bit more content that you'd like to plow through there, Elizabeth, we can do either one.
Well, there's a couple things I think we can elaborate on, and then we'll definitely have time for questions. But, you know, as club president, what's really fantastic is you know your members, you know the community you serve, and you know the ways to make everybody feel connected and good in your club. So when Jeff was talking about those foundation points, that's one of the best resources that you guys have that cost nothing that we see underutilized. So for example, in my Rotary Club, you're supposed to say, I know of a Rotary Club that has an amazing Interact Club, and the Interact faculty advisor, the teachers, they're not Rotarians, and it's very hard to recognize them in a way that's separate and meaningful. So we actually use our club points, and every year we will gift one of them a Paul Harris Fellow, and we'll make it a very big ceremony. We'll have them come to the club with our Interact officers and really just show them like that it's not always about money. It's about time, it's about energy, and that Rotary, and specifically, you know, when we think about Paul Harris and what Rotary stands for, it's all those things. And so, you know, I want, you know, to encourage all of you, It's a lot of information you just got just on this call. And at PELS, it's this times 100. And we tend to think it's about the money, the money, the money. And all that I would just like to suggest is we can't do the projects without the giving. But when we're working with our club members, we have to focus on the stories and we have to focus on the good that that money is going to. Because if someone says, you know, we need to raise $1,000 this year for the Rotary Foundation, they have no connection to that. But if we said we can raise $1,000 this year for the Rotary Foundation so that, or because we just renovated our classroom in the local community, because we gave, they're like, oh, okay, I can put it together. And that's why that minute, that foundation minute Jeff's talking about is really important. But there's lots of resources. We're here for you. So yes, Jeff, let's pause and answer any questions you might have, and then we can give you more. We have so much more. But for tonight, does anybody have any questions? Because we've covered a lot. Nobody shy here. And you guys, honestly, if it's like, I don't even know where to start, that's okay. I mean,
So
anything.
I
Mhm.
have a comment. Can I make a comment? This is
Of
Siska.
course you can.
So you were talking about recognition. One of the things that we have done in our club is we do a service above self award that we ask our high schools. We have a 5 in our geographic area where my club's at. And we ask them through the Interact Club and through the school itself for students to apply for a scholarship. And they are to create a project that they could do within their school that we as the club could participate with, and then we give them money to support that project. And we use a DDF for part of that. We're doing one on Stop the Bleed, and one of our students put together a program. And what, as a result of that, we've been able to bring in, using DDF funds, bring in the school districts and the police department and the fire department and the city council, all as a result of using our DDF money in that kind of a way.
Thank
So I
you.
think we, a lot of times we're not creative, as you were talking about global grants. We're not, we get lost on it, but anything that you can think about, you could probably do either by way of a global grant, which would be bigger, or as a district grant, if your district gives money back to the clubs or however they use it. There are a lot of ways that you can engage a lot of people. And I love your idea of recognition, using points to recognize our advisors. That is a fabulous tool.
And it could be anything, you guys. Like, let's say that someone's dad was a Rotarian and, you know, the mom wasn't in Rotary, but the mom allowed all these things to happen. You know, you can give it to a family member. If you wanted to honor, you know, your kids or a niece and nephew or a best friend, someone in the community. I know in one of the communities that I worked with, they were, that club created a kind of a citizen of the year, you know, 4-way test who met the 4-way test. And they created an event every year using Paul Harris points to be able to honor that community citizen. It turned out to be one of the greatest events. And it was in the city of Glendale where the Cardinals play. They have it every year. So, definitely, you know, lots of ideas. So let's go to the questions for a second. One of the first ones, and this came from Jeb, and I touched on it, but I want to emphasize it. You are going to be doing a million things as club president. You're responsible for youth exchange, getting kids to RILA, making sure the bills are paid, making sure your meetings are going, the programs, etc. Are you going to have time to do all things? Absolutely not. So one of your best ideas between now and through PELS when you're attending is to find your club champions. If you have someone that's really passionate about grants, that's who you want as your club foundation chair. If you have someone who talks to everybody in the community, they even if they know nothing about the foundation, but they're just askers, that could be your fundraising chair. You know, you just find their personalities, but what we don't want to do is just leave it blank. Your club foundation chair is going to be how you bring in the energy to your club, just like your youth services chair. They're going to be able to tell you, here's the great projects that are coming in. So I definitely would recommend you find a champion as your club foundation chair. the other thing where we're talking about, I said we have a one-page resource flyer. So Jeff's flying through that stuff, and I don't want you feeling like you have to go create a Canva or go create your own thing. We have those resources. So reach out to your, you can reach out to either one of us. You have Jeff's picture, I mean, email. You can send either one of us a note, but you also have your district Rotary Foundation chair, the committee chair. That's, you need to find, as club president, you need to find out, or I would suggest to find out who those leaders are within your district. Get their emails, get their names, and put them in your phone on contacts as your favorites for 1 year, because you should be texting them and calling them, hey, I need this, I need this. If they don't have it, they'll be calling one of us and we'll be getting it to them. No ask is too big. So please, please, please find out who your district Rotary Foundation committee chair will be for the year that you're serving. And then the next one is from Jeff. Could you please walk through I'm scrolling down, clicks that get us to the reports? So Jeff, I'm going to put that over to you if that's something you want to send, because we do have things that show that, or if you want to go through that one more time.
Yeah, I can pull it up here really quickly, and then yeah, we can send some resources over to you too, just so you have it available to you. But when you log into my Rotary, this is kind of what you're looking at here. This is the main landing page for the RI website. At the top right, you'll see the highlighted red square up there, My Account. That's where you log into your specific My Rotary account. Once you log in, it'll take you to a screen with several boxes that look like this. The one obviously that you want to focus on for our purposes is membership and foundation reports. And that's a clickable link, that whole box. So you click on that and it takes you to the next page, which is oh, not that page. That's my picture again. Sorry guys, how'd that get in there? Um it's this page here that shows a list of all the reports you have available to you. It's actually pretty significant. So as you scroll down, you'll find several options for reports, but you'll eventually get to the club giving reports, this one right here. You click on view reports and it'll take you to the club report specific page that shows a listing of the suite of reports you have available to you for club foundation giving. And so that's a general walkthrough again. Like I said, I went through it really quick. We'll send this over to you so you have access to it and you can refer back to it, make it a little bit easier on you. And I fully invite you when you get some free time and maybe a quick 10, 15 minutes available to you just to go through and play with these and see what you have so you can kind of come to this on your own terms and find out what might be actually most useful to you.
So Jeff, there's a great question in there, and it's the infamous question from Jill. When do we have access to these reports? And the answer is it depends on your role right now. So if you're currently serving as your club foundation chair or you're serving as the secretary, in certain ways, you might have access to some of these reports. As president-elect, a big thing is that you are listed, whether you use a Club Runner or DocDB, you are listed in Rotary.org, my Rotary, as the president-elect. I will tell you that the number one issue that I see when someone can't access the reports is that they weren't entered into the computer system yet. So what your action item is going to be that's going to give you a step up from all those other 480 presidents who weren't on this call is you are going to go ahead and get on my Rotary. Make sure you can log in, your username and password. Make sure that it shows that you're going to be president next year. It will show that right when you log in your profile. Then try to get access to those reports. But if you are not currently a club officer or related to the foundation, you will get those July 1st when the new year starts. That does not mean that we can't help you ahead of time, get some of that information and understand being able to mess with that data and learn about it ahead of time. A couple other things I wanted to give you just little quick tips on is they're just best practices. So I come from a club that has about 25 active members. It's very small, but we're small but mighty. And one way that we've become mighty is that understand when you're doing a global grant, when you want to participate in a project, you only have to have $100, $50. You do not have to have, $10,000, $1,000 to be able to participate. And something that I encourage all of you to do is find one project this year when you serve as club president that your club loves if you're not currently engaging in any bigger grants, and just become a partner. You don't have to have any of the responsibility. You don't have to do really any of the work, but you get to be part of the outcome, and get to see the process, which is really fantastic for your club. So check your My Rotary as an action item. Look for some projects, and your club foundation chair can help you do that. And the other thing I just want, as club president, that you're mindful of is we still have a lot of, and I would say, when I say this, like 90% of our Rotary clubs, this is the majority, are still using checks and still using kind of old school technology. If there's a way that you could incorporate Venmo or Zelle or some of the more modern technology for your younger members, you will see that their giving is very, very, it's quick. The issue is most younger Rotarians don't carry cash. So when they go to do Happy Bucks or they go to give, they don't have cash. And so they don't participate and then they feel left out. Versus if I could Venmo my $10 for Happy Bucks or $5, or I could send in my money electronically through Rotary using Rotary Direct, now I might participate a little more. And I'm not saying me because I actually have checks, but I'm talking about that other generation that follows us. So, it's just being able to meet people where they are and try to bring some technology into your clubs. And the last thing I would be mindful of is we still have some treasurers and secretaries that when they send in the funds, they don't send them in quickly, and they may not put the Rotarian's ID. If they don't put the Rotarian's ID, it gets counted as a donation under the club, but it doesn't get counted as a donation under the member. It can be corrected, but it causes a lot of conflict down the road because sometimes members will say, hey, I should have gotten my Paul Harris Fellow and I never got it. They must not care about me. And that's actually not the case, is that it just didn't get recorded that way. So please find your champion who likes to fundraise, find your champion who likes to do the community service, your international service. Even if it's 25 members, you still can find someone to plug and play, but also find your person who's very good with details and can cross those T's and dot those I's. I know that's not exciting, but it actually is part of the entire part of giving, is making sure we're honoring and recognizing our individuals. Jeff, any other best practices in our last little bit here?
I think maybe just to summarize some of the key takeaways from the call here. Number one priority, for me, especially, I think I speak for Elizabeth too in this, is to come up with a priority for you in your presidential year. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be raise $1 million. Maybe it's just raise the level of awareness about the foundation at your club. Could be anything up to, let's get everybody in our club a Paul Harris Fellow. Anything and everything in between. Just find something that you care about, that you want to make an impact with the foundation. So that's number one. Number two, when you get a chance, just go in and play with these reports. If you don't have access yet, there's a thing called delegation, which your current club president, if they're willing and able to, can share their access to reports, which means that you could go in under their name and play with them. And you can't screw anything up. It's almost a sandbox. It's just reports. You're just looking at data, so you can't add or take away anything. But it'll give you a chance to kind of play with them a little bit and get a little bit more comfortable with those. And then I think there was one more, but I can't remember what it is at this point. So I'll share that when the time comes. But oh, here we go. Look at that. Call us. Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, use us. We're here to be a resource to you. So if there's anything that we can help with, please don't hesitate.
And
And
with the
I'll just
call us, I just want to add, we will both be at your PELS physically there. So if you see us, you want to go through any of the reports, we will have our computers. We can go through anything with you. If you attend a session and you want more information on it, please just grab us in the hallway because we're both going to be there as a resource to you.
Absolutely. I just because the slide's not up in front of us, I put my contact information in the chat so you have that available to you. Copy and paste it somewhere real quick. But yes, please do reach out. We'll be in person live at PELS. Siska mentioned that I became famous in Rotary circles for my baking, but in recent times, I've actually become more famous for my karaoke skills. So if we get a chance at PELS, maybe we'll do a little singing. Not promising anything, but if we have some time, maybe we can make it happen.
You guys, thanks so
Thursday
much.
night. Thursday night.
Thursday night.
I will tell you, we have one of the coolest jobs in Rotary, and coming as a past district governor to say this, I mean this with all my heart. We get to see all the great work you are doing in your clubs, in your specific clubs. And so thank you again. Thank you for stepping up into leadership. We want you to have the best year ever. You will. Please remember to have fun. It seems daunting right now, and it will at PELS, but it goes really, really fast. And it's something that you get to make a lasting impact on your community that will be there forever. So thank you guys so much. And we are here every step of the way.
Thank you for your service. Amazing job.
I thank
Thank
both
you.
of you for
Great
being
presentation.
here. I really, really appreciate it. And I do want to say to all of you, President-elects, that the RI staff and the zone staff will be in the House of Friendship, which is really the vendor area. You will go through it numerous times every day while you're there, and they will have a table. So you can all, if you can't find them in the hallways, you will find them there, and they are a wealth of information. So I really appreciate you both being on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to thank all of the president-elects for taking the time to come tonight. I hope you found it valuable. I learned things, which
It was
is really good. So it's very good. So I appreciate that and hope to see you. Our next session will be in December with Angela Lopez, and
She's
she's going to be
awesome,
talking.
guys. Don't miss it.
Don't miss it. She is fabulous. She's a Rotarian, a past president. She's from Arizona. It seems like a lot of people are from Arizona. Yay, yay, yay. And she will look on your schedule. She will, I think it's the 11th of December. Don't miss it. And then in January, we're going to have 3 sessions, an AI session, a public image session, and then a assistant governor session. So look for those in January and hope to see you there. And again, thank you all. So have a wonderful rest of the night and we'll close it down. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Hey, Elizabeth.
Hmm?
Can you wait just a moment?
Yeah.
Jeff, for one of you. So would you send me that resource? I think I asked Jeff and I think I just sent you a couple of emails and your PowerPoints. If you want, I can put those on the PELS website. If you don't want me to, I won't.
No, you totally can. It's foundation approved. I just need to find out if they have one. I pulled this from the regional leader library
Okay.
and
Right.
it's showing a couple of years old. So I just want to see if there's something more up to date. But
Okay.
I'll send you what I have and then we can replace it if there is.
Yeah, we can do
Yeah.
that, yes. And then if you send me that resource page, that would be great. We'll put
You
it
got
on
it.
there. And then they'll have the availability for it. And then I'll use it also for the foundation piece. So
You got
thank
it.
you again. I really
Oh, thank you.
appreciate it. Have
All
a
right, have a good
fabulous
night.
evening. Give Kevin a hug for me and I hope he feels better soon.
He will. He'll be able to run marathons. So
Did you used to run marathons?
he played a ton of basketball. That's how this happened. So
Okay.
he'll get active again, which is great.
That's what
Have
the
a good
doctors
night.
always say. Have a good evening. Bye.